What's up, family? What's up? Now, check it out. I'm here. We're about to start this course in a second, right? I forgot to go and schedule this class, so basically, people might be coming in a little late because they didn't see it ready to go prior to the video, but that's all right. We're good. We're gonna keep this moving. Uh, First of all, how was the homework for Wednesday? Tell me what you've done so far and what you're planning on doing for your median. What medium are you picking? Ah, light novel for sixth graders. That's interesting. So you're going straight into schools, huh? That's your play. So you love light trying to go do 12 different things. You talking about screenplay, comic, and hardback. Whew, that's a lot of work, man. That's a lot of work. All right, we got some novel people in here doing some novels. Some people doing comics. Haven't heard no children's books here yet. Where's the children's books at? Okay, okay. All right, so it seems like a lot of people here are focusing on novels and middle grade content as well. Not necessarily young kid stuff. At least that's not the majority of the people in the classroom right now. But it should fill up pretty soon. You know, it's definitely some stuff involved in that. This class right here, Roles and Cost, is basically going to cover um, all the cost that's usually required for these mediums, all right? So this is where you're going to learn basically how to budget your project, right? Because you want to sit down and you want to be able to say, hey, this is how much my project's going to cost me, right? Now I can prepare for it, so that's definitely something that we're going to be going over today. You know what I'm saying? Also, if you would be so kind, hit the like button and also share this on your Facebook timeline, okay? Share it on your Facebook timeline and say, oh my God, you got to join this class with me. We're learning how to write our first books or something like that. All right? We want to get more people in here, as many people as we can over time. You know what I'm saying? Oh, by the way, if you see me constantly wiping my nose, I'm a little bit under the weather, right? So that's just the way it is for me. Got a little unlucky, but that's all right. All right, so check it out. Let's go. First things first. We're gonna start off with the first slide. Remember, this is roles and costs. This is the sixth class of this course. You know, the first category we're going to go to, and this is going to be a purely stat-based class, okay? This class isn't going to go into the mentals and all the creative stuff. That's nothing to do with this particular class. This class is 100% about projecting your costs for future projects, all right? So you need to go and review this video after you watch it when you're doing the homework in order to basically calculate your cost, all right? You got to use some of these numbers in order to make your assessment. And basically, the lower end cost is international, so we're talking about people in other countries, and then the higher end cost tends to be people stateside and professionals. All right, so make no mistake. There are professionals that are very cheap, but they're mostly in other countries, like Philippines or something like that. So this is why the numbers are like this, and that's what we're going to be going over today. All right. So, first things first. Comics, right? Comics are the first category of artists that we're looking at, okay? These are the people that we need to hire in order to make whatever we're doing, right? So, if they're making comic books, this is the kind of rates you're going to be looking at per page, all right? Anything in comic books is per page, all right? It also is the same thing for children's books, even though I didn't put that in this slide. Comics and children's books break down the same way. It's per page, all right? So black and white pages tend to be $40 to $150 per page, right? Depending on if you're international or stateside. And color pages tend to be $70 to $200 per page. All right. This is very important because let's say you're writing a story and you think it's going to be 30 pages. You can do like, okay, I'm going to use a mid-level artist, right? So you say, I'm going to do $80 per page times 30, and now you got your entire budget, at least for the art of your book. You know, that's what you're looking at. So he said, then basically what we're looking at is cover designs, right? So, well, you should definitely well, this is the thing though. That's why we're talking here, okay? The volume's on, so you can definitely see the numbers there and stuff. I'm not gonna go and remake stuff. So check it out. Cover designs, design and format, right? So this is the format of your actual cover, whether it's saddle stitch, whether it's hardcover, or whatever. You can get variations too, by the way. It's like an extra. It's like a maybe 1/8 of the cost extra in order to get a variation. So if you want to do like a saddle stitch which has no spine, but then you're doing an anthology and you want to make that into a thicker spine, that is something that somebody would normally do for a cheap extra charge. But basically, design and format is usually $200 to $500. All right, and this is very, very technical. All right. It should include the entire front and back cover as well as the spine. All right. That's part of the design. You know, everything on there needs to be included. All right. And if it's not, then they're not really designing your cover. You know, they're just drawing pictures for you. You know, and that should be discounted heavily if that's the case. All right. Next thing is graphics design. Nandi, try looking at it horizontal or something. Are you on your phone right now? Because if you're looking at it on phone, it might be too small. But I can't make it any bigger. That's Yeah. So turn it sideways and watch it widescreen. Graphics design is logos. All right. This is what basically people work on. Logos. All right. Logos tend to be $100 to $200 per design and about $25 per variation. So in other words, if somebody does, let's say Black Sands, right? They do the Black Sands logo, right? That might cost $100 to $200. But if they want to do like a variation that's three-dimensional or a variation that is blue because the background happens to be like ice colored or whatever, right? It's usually about $25 per variation, all right? And sometimes it's important to have a whole bunch of variations in case you're doing it on different marketing materials and stuff. You can't obviously use bright yellow uh, things on every single background, right? Naruto has about 17 different variations of the name Naruto, you know, just because of the things that it's used on. All right. Now, these are the roles for artists. Anybody have any questions about artists before I move on? Well, Specs Vision. When I say something about spines on a comic, what I mean is anthologies. All right. So this is spines for any kind of book, not just comics. All right. This isn't a class about comic books. This particular class is about all three specs, which is children's books, novels, and comics. So the prices that I'm giving you is for all medians because they're basically universal. Artists do page rates, they do covers and design regardless of median, and graphics design is always logos and stuff like that, word art. That tends to be what you use a graphic designer for. So, anybody have any questions about artists before I move on? If not, I will move on to the next section. All right. Should your book be completed and copywriter copy I say copywritten prior to sending it to out to an artist? It should definitely be copywritten. All right. It should definitely be copywritten. If it and you should definitely make them sign an NDA. All right, prior to giving them anything. All right, because the NDA protects you in case they decide not to work on it, or if they want to go and use that information to give to someone else, they can't. They can't use it in any other way except for ways that you have authorized. So a non-disclosure agreement is very important. It's the first thing you should do before you ever do any work with anyone ever. All right. Copyright's like 35 bucks. It's pretty cheap. So but the main thing is you do it with the government. You don't go through unofficial sites. You go straight through the government, copyright.gov, and it's pretty cheap. Okay, would the price be the same if I have a black book with a book? I don't know what that means. Maybe it's I don't do art. Is that what you're saying? Like with no art on the cover, it's more like a generic cover. Generic cover. If that's what you're talking about, then yes. These are prices for people who are planning on making professional products. All right. However, if you're going to use a generic, you can actually do your own cover if you feel like it. If it's generic, right? And then you don't have to pay anything, right? But this is about, hey, I want to do an awesome cover. How do I do it? These are the numbers you're looking at if you're planning on doing anything on the professional level. But you could do it anyway. See, this is the thing about this course is that a lot of you just simply don't have the resources to do, a massive production, which is fine. You just got to adapt to that, all right? Not everybody's going to walk around with, the most ridiculously illustrated books imaginable. That's why I like novels because it's low barrier to entry. You can do a very generic cover, like maybe a green cover, just straight green with the title and like the name, and get the book out. And if people like the story, right, you can invest in it more, right? But you don't have to invest in everything immediately. It's only for people who have the resources to do the professional product that they should be doing that immediately. But people who can't need to think of ways to raise money to do the professional finish. Get a Kickstarter going or something. Give a free PDF of your book so people knows it's quality and you just want to finish it up with the finishing touches. And so if they pre-order the book, you can afford everything, and then from then on, your book is way more sellable because now that you've cleaned it up, it's good to go. All right. Now let's keep moving forward. By the way, non-disclosure agreements are very common. There's no real legal stuff to worry about. So just go to Google and say non-disclosure agreement template, and they'll give you one. All right. They're all basically the same. It says you can't share anything I give you, and I can't share anything you give me. They're all mutual most of the time. Just download a template, read it yourself. It's only like 1 to 2 pages max, and from then on, that should be the thing you send to everybody because that's what it is. It's just a general non-disclosure agreement. All right, next part is the writing trade. Okay, this is for writers. This is the writing of books, all the stuff that's required in order to make proper prose. All right, so first things first, editors. All right, editors will cost you 2 cents to 4 cents per word. All right, that's the standard rate for basically mid-level uh, mid-level editors, right? Mid-level editors. I tell people don't try to get an expert editor unless you're a freaking New York Times bestseller. Okay, you do not need an expert editor. What you need is somebody who has a good work history. In order to do this, and we'll go over this in class later on. So a different class will be about recruitment, where to recruit these people. But for now, what you need to understand is that it costs about 2 cents to 4 cents per word. That means that if they're doing 100 words, it's $2. If they're doing 1,000 words, it's $20. And if they're doing 10,000 words, it's it's 200. No, yeah, it's about $200. All right, so that's why we do these assessments, because we know, hey, if I'm doing an 80,000 word book and I need it edited, right? You can basically estimate how much you're gonna have to spend on an editor. You don't have to initially, right? You can just release it with crude editing, right? Which is basically yourself making choices that are the best options, right? Maybe get a friend to look over it once. But once you realize that it's a good book and that people buy it anyway, regardless of the fact that you have terrible prose, you can actually go back through it and this time, now that you know that it can sell, you can start investing into the editing. You can start investing into other things that make it better, right? So first things first, make sure it's viable. Then invest in it heavily in order to make it into an official product that can just go off. All right. Now, the next one is, by the way, for editing, there are different types of editing which scales with price significantly. So we got copy editing. We have a certain type of editing that involves actually creating some of the work, similar to a co-writer, right? Doing the syntax and basically trying to find the holes in your story. That goes up big time, all right? You're looking like double the price if you choose to go all in with editing. So be careful of that, okay? Be careful of which one they're talking about whenever you're talking to an editor. All right. Next one is co-writers slash ghostwriters. All right. Co-writers are also 2 cents to 4 cents per word. That's how much it costs to hire one. All right. You can also get one by collaborating. Right. You collaborate. That means you have partial ownership of the product because they're collaborating with you without getting paid. All right. Me personally, I always pay people because I don't feel like sharing anything. Right. But that's your choice. Also, if you're gonna get a ghostwriter, right? This is somebody who writes or helps write the story, but doesn't take any credit, right? That way you get all the glory, right? Ghostwriting will cost you about an extra 2 cents per word, all right? So in other words, it'll be 4 cents to 6 cents per word, right? And this is for mid-level people. Okay, we never want to hire the professionals, the best people, because those people, first of all, nobody's gonna know the difference at that level. All right, only people will know the difference are people who review books nonstop, constantly, New York Times bestsellers list and all that stuff, and they look for the editor's name in the book because they all like in this clique. All right, so don't worry about the super hardcore editors, co-writers, and all that stuff. You don't need that right now. You need mid-level people in order to be successful. Last thing is the proofreading. All right, proofreading is about 1 cent to 2 cents per word. All right. You can also use somebody for free. You can get people for free in a lot of channels that like reviewing stuff in general. There's a lot of people who review stuff for free. They just do. So this is a cost that you can actually avoid. I don't really spend much money ever on proofreading, so I would not suggest it unless you absolutely have to nail the storyline, okay? So I would skip that part if you can. All right? Any questions about the writing trade? Any questions? I'll look at them right now. Oh no, the editor don't do any of that stuff. Nope, that's extra money right there. You're gonna pay that editor twice, maybe 3 times the amount of the entire production for the book, just on the editor if they did everything. 40,000 words would not be $160. Let's break out the calculator. All right. Let's see. I'll break out a calculator. So we're talking about writers, right? And let's say on the cheap end, 2 cents per word for an editor. All right. So 40,000 times 0.02 equals 800 bucks. 800 bucks. So that's what you're looking at right there. A whole bunch of people came up before I did to say that. So that's how much it would cost to edit a 40,000 word book. And that's on the cheap end, all right? Remember, you don't need heavy editing at first. You have to see if your story is even good to get an editor. Your editor is going to be your most expensive cost. You know, your editor is going to be your most expensive cost by far because technically you don't need a co-writer. Technically you don't need a proofreader. But you do need an editor eventually. That's just because we all suck at prose, all right? Unless you're somebody who does editing for a living. And I think we have some editors in our Discord server. You might want to ask them if they have some rates, since they're going to be they might be working on a whole bunch of different projects in the community. They might have much cheaper rates than what they would normally charge because they're not hunting for clients. The clients are kind of given to them, right? Because they're in my personal Discord server, so they have access to clients way more than other people, you know? So now, Nandi, to be perfectly clear about the editing side, editors do have genres. So editors will tell you which genres they like and what they don't like. All right. Same thing for co-writers. Co-writers will tell you which genres they write for and which genres they absolutely do not. All right. So they'll usually tell you that up front before you even start the conversation. Okay, so what's it called? Says Teresa asked, "What is the last word on the proofreading?" So I'll read that for you. All right. It says, "Can be recruited for free, but will have significantly less notes." So in other words, a proofreader doesn't change anything. They just tell you where problems may exist, right? And they leave notes for you so you can go in and make some changes or maybe think a little harder about that scene and stuff like that. They put a lot of notes into your stuff. But if it's free, most likely you're gonna have a hell of a lot less notes, right? If notes at all, they might just tell you, "Hey, I thought chapter 2 was a little bit off." Whereas somebody who's getting paid to do it will have literally the comment right at that section, pointing to it in the Word document that says, "This right here is giving me a huge problem because I can't find it in earlier in the chapter. Please look at this and see if there's any way we can connect these ideas." That's the kind of stuff you'll see in a proofreader's notes, but you won't see it in a free proofreaders. All right, let's move on. All right. Printing cost. Okay, so we need to talk about printing costs. This is the one that's gonna sneak up on you. Okay, this one is so sneaky. All right, you guys are like, "Hey, I finished my book. I finally did it. I only spent $1,000 or $2,000 to finish my book. I'm so happy. I finally did it. Now I can start selling books." And then you realize that the print cost is going to kill you, right? Because print costs are not only uh, significantly high in some situations, but also, and this is very important, prices go down significantly if you buy in bulk. But if you buy in bulk, you have to sell them, because if you don't, then you just took on a massive amount of debt for a product that's not proven. Do you understand? So this is very tricky situation. So let's go over these numbers for printing cost because this is important. If there's anything you save from this freaking class, oh yeah, by the way, for everybody in this class, on Discord, I'm going to put a resources tab on Discord. I'm going to put this actual PowerPoint on Discord so you can have this PowerPoint as a reference for future. So you can just go right into the PowerPoint. If it's blurry now, it's not in the actual like document, and you'll be able to go right through it, check your numbers, and use the calculations, because the homework is all about basically budgeting your entire production over the weekend. By the end of the weekend, you should have every single cost on the high end and every single cost on the low end of what your production will most likely cost. All right, so let's get into it. Hardcovers. Hardcovers, the devil. All right, hardcovers is the devil. Let's talk about it. Stateside. All right, stateside, if you have a hardcover standard novel, that's 5.5 by 8.5, right? Or 6 by 9. He said basically it's around $6, all right? You go to Ingram Spark, you go to other competitors to Ingram Spark and stuff like that. It's usually about $6 per book if you do a small novel, type thing. If you're using a children's book, would tend to be much bigger, like they're 9 by 9, 8 by 8, or their landscape or something like that. You're looking at $9 per book, $9 per book. Think about how high your freaking price point has to be if you're paying $9 for your book. You know what I'm saying? He said they're also print on demand. So one of the advantages of having stateside hardcovers is they tend to be print on demand, which means that if somebody orders your book from Amazon, right? They get the book printed by the company and then the company ships to them and you don't have to worry about it. So that's actually very beneficial if you're using a service like Ingram Spark and selling it directly through Amazon. That might be good for people who don't want to pay for the books, right? Because technically you don't have to buy any books yourself. If you just sell through Amazon, then you don't ever have to print a book ever, right? But if you're planning on printing them, it's a disaster, all right? To sell them personally in person, that is like a really high price point for that, but we'll go over that a little bit later. China, all right? China, if you're buying hardcovers from China, right? If you ship by sea, and this is a big difference between China and the United States. In the United States, you can get anything in 2 to 4 weeks max, right? 2 to 4 weeks, you can get anything. You could even get stuff as soon as 1 week, right? But for China, it's usually by sea or by air, and it's not print on demand. It is usually bulk orders, all right? So you're buying at least 250 books at a time, right? The price scales down dramatically once you get to about 1,000 books in one print run, all right? But assuming that you're buying at least 1,000 books from China, these numbers are accurate, all right? China is 1/3 the U.S. cost if shipped by sea. So in other words, if it costs you $9 to do a children's book in America, right? Even if you buy 1,000 books in America, you're still paying $9 per book. If you buy it from China and ship by sea, you're going to be spending close to $3 per book for that children's book, all right? The only issue is by sea usually takes 2 to 3 months, all right? Very long time, especially if you're on the East Coast. If you're on the West Coast, you should save about a couple of weeks. But East Coast, yeah, you're pretty much screwed. You're going to have to wait a long time to get those books. But it's not a problem, all right? Because if you're not planning on selling 3,000 books or 1,000 books in 3 months, you might as well wait, Then, if you do it by air, it's 60% of the U.S. cost if shipped by air. So in other words, the price of the books gets expensive quick because they're heavy, all right? And everything by air is usually based on weight, right? So in other words, hardcovers are always going to be way more expensive than anything else you ship from China, and 60% is still significant discount, right? You get the books in about a month. It takes about a month to get a delivery from China, So it's a significant speed increase, right? But it also increases the margin. It decreases the margin by quite a bit, all right? Then we talk about soft covers, all right? Soft covers are stateside. Okay, so stateside, you're looking at standard novel colors around $4, right? So if you go to KDP or some other book publisher, right, they'll charge you about $4 to $5 per book, right? Black and white, usually around $3, all right? China cannot compete. I'm going to be honest with you. Unless you're buying 10,000 books from China, They can't compete when it comes to soft cover books with the United States. United States has faster delivery. Their print seems to be just fine, right? Print seems to be just fine. They're faster delivery, and they're on demand, right? So people could do on demand stuff as well. And they'll cost about exactly the same cost as China. So best believe if you're doing like a regular novel, your best bet is to just go through KDP. Get KDP to print your books. It's dirt cheap. It's dirt cheap, and you can sell your book for $12, $15, however much you want, and make a hell of a margin. So don't go to China for regular soft cover books. All right, just don't do it. Next thing, saddle stitched. Saddle stitched are stateside. When we talk about stateside, we're looking like companies like Kablam. We're looking at companies like KDP and everything else. They do saddle stitched books. Uh, Usually colors are $3 to $5 per book, unless you do bulk. They do have bulk discounts, which gets them down to like $2.50, something like that. And black and white is usually $2.5 to $4 per book. And this is comic books, okay? That's what saddle stitched is. Comic books. All right. China though, dominates saddle stitch industry. Okay. You look at this. It's 1/4 the cost if you ship by sea. Okay. So in other words, you can get comic books for less than $1. Less than $1, like 80 cents per book, if you print through China. By sea. Do you understand how crazy? Do you understand how cheap you can price your books if you have a 80-cent book print cost? How cheap that is? How cheap you can price your stuff? That changes the entire game on how you can price your books. And if you could somehow convince people to buy your books at $10 per comic, right? Then you're making close to 800-900% margin. Do you understand? Do you understand? Okay? So it's serious. With China, saddle stitch books, they dominate. All right? Now let's go with the by air. I like doing by air because I always never plan too far ahead, so I tend to order everything by air. When you do by air, it's still half the price, so it's still super competitive and dominates because it's still going to be delivered within a month. Most companies can't deliver you comic books with unless it's like 2 to 4 weeks anyway. So the delivery times are not necessarily that different, but it's half the cost. All right, half the cost shipped by air. All right, that means that you could have a $1.50 book, right, and sell it for $7 and make freaking damn near 400-500% margin. All right, this is some crazy stuff. It's real, man. This is where the money comes from. This is how you make money. You don't make money by freaking paying $3 for a book and then selling it for $5. All right, that's how you basically get trapped in debt. You need to have a large margin. I always say 200% margin is the minimum you should sell your books for. So if you buy a book for $6, you should sell it for 18. Otherwise, because I guarantee you 1/3 of your cost is going to go to advertising in some kind of form. You're going to have to buy a venue, or you're going to have to buy ads or something like that. You have to run a website. You have to do all these extra things. It's going to take up about 1/3 of your entire price most of the time. Off question. What if you can pick up your books yourself out of China? No, you can't. Absolutely not. You cannot do that 100%. Basically, they will not take an order that's under 250 books. And in order to ship 250 books is a lot of inventory. And customs will stop you. Customs will stop you because they have to basically tax the hell out of you. And if you don't have the proper paperwork, if you don't have the proper customs, you're basically screwed. They're going to confiscate all your stuff. All right, so with printing costs, give me some questions. Give me some questions about printing costs, and I'll go over the details. Right? If not, I'm going to move over to our last slide. All right? Yeah, I'll add some references that I've used in the past that I like, right? And some that I absolutely hate, all right? Oh, by the way, we actually have if you don't know about this, we actually have for if anybody who's planning on doing children's books, right? And they got to get hardcovers. We actually have somebody in Philadelphia who basically owns the company. It's called Urban Tunes. He owns his company, right? And he's black. He does all these children's books and everything else for kids all across the nation. And he has direct contacts in China, right? So he's doing a lot of printing for people in the black community, giving them great prices at a much deeper discount than you'd find on like Alibaba or something like that, because he's a direct connection. Whereas everybody else has to use middlemen and stuff like that. So if you're looking to get some books and you're only planning on getting maybe 250 or 500 books, you might want to go through Urban Tunes. But remember, if you're going through Urban Tunes, you need to go and mention that Black Sands sent you his way. Because I have worked with him before in the past, and I do like sending him some people, but I do get credit when I send them stuff, alright? So it's very important that you mention that if you're planning on getting books printed in China, definitely go through him. So comic books can be sold on demand. Kablam does that. Kablam Printing does uh, print on demand, all right? The only problem is it doesn't do it directly through Amazon. So basically, it has to be done on their platform, which is their website, but the website clearly doesn't have as much traffic, so you got to build all the traffic for it and it'll never be organic because organic traffic is more like Amazon stuff eventually trends, But with their stuff, it's never gonna trend because everybody has to bring their audience directly to them. So it can be print on demand where you don't have to pay for the printing at all, right? But uh, he said they won't help you with traffic, not one bit. Okay. Do the number of pages affect cost? Absolutely, mostly because of weight. Weight is the biggest factor when it comes to shipping overseas. All right. Page counts usually are flat rate. So up to a certain amount of pages tends to be flat rate unless you're using really high print quality. Like kids books have pages that are really heavy, right? Really thick pages, and that tends to be much more expensive than printing, regular novel pages. So it really depends. No, Urban Tunes does basically everything that you would normally see from any Chinese printing company. So it's novels, children's books, softcover and hardcover, uh, comics, all that stuff. He does all of it. But like I said, only use Urban Tunes if you're planning on buying a lot of copies because that's the only way China will do any printing. They won't print small amounts. 250 is the minimum amount of copies they will print. All right. So if you're planning on getting at least 250 copies, great resource to use. Urban Tunes. Jonathan Houston asks, "What made you choose comics over novels, knowing the cost?" Well, basically, we had already been in visual mediums due to our video game production that we were working on, and I had everything in place before I ever got to the comic. So I had an amazing artist, right? I had an amazing team, right? And as a result, when we abandoned the video game production, what was I gonna do? Build up from scratch or just use the people that were already in place to make the next product? So that's what I did. I just transitioned over from a video game to a comic. Well, print on demand through Amazon would usually go through KDP, but it doesn't do saddle stitch, so no comic books, okay? They don't do saddle stitched prints on KDP. They just don't. They only do regular perfect bound books. All right, so if you're looking at perfect bound books, you can sell them uh, directly print on demand through Amazon, and you just gotta drive traffic to it, in other ways, maybe through social media, maybe through whatever. But that's the way you do that, and you don't have to pay a dime. If anybody orders them, KDP prints it by its automatically and ships it out, and you don't have to worry about it. It's even on. You even automatically get Prime because KDP is owned by Amazon. So that means that people who have Prime accounts will most likely get free 2-day delivery, which helps with the margin because people are more interested in buying your book because they don't have to pay for shipping. So there you go. Saddle Stitch is 100% unsuitable for novels. It just first of all, Saddle Stitch only works up to like 68 pages. Once you get like up to 60 pages, it can't be bound together anymore. It has to be perfectly bound once it gets past that point. It's too thick. Yes, a Kickstarter is an option, but you need to be ready for it, all right? You need to have a plan way beforehand. I ain't even working on Kickstarter. I'm not even teaching you guys anything about Kickstarter until about a month and a half to 2 months into the course. The reason for that is because if you try to basically start an idea on Kickstarter, you're most likely going to fail, all right? You need to have something very tangible to show people. All right, guys, I am done for tonight. I hope you had an amazing class and week. I expect to see your homework on Patreon by Monday for this last week's classes. If you just recently joined the Patreon, you can still submit the first week's classes because we delayed that one a week. Only because people were just coming on to the program and they didn't have time to sign up. All right, so go ahead, make sure to submit your homework by Monday. I can review it, give you my critiques and stuff like that. On Monday evening, I'm going to be adding 2 new tiers to Patreon. This is exclusively for people who basically have financial means and want to make sure that they're doing the right thing, okay? Because basically, you know, I can't give too much time to each individual person, right? But if people want my time, right, then they basically got to pay my hourly rate, right? So basically, I'm going to give a price for my hourly rate, right? So we can have phone consultations about their work, like going over their work, and also reviewing all their content on the next tier up past that. All right, so this is more of a personal thing. It takes up literal time. There's literally an allocated amount of time each month that I'm going to be calling you directly, and that's going to be one of the new specific tiers, specifically for people who just want to guarantee that they get their book done. Because when they're talking to me, they know they're on track, right? Because I'm not going to let them just go and give me excuses. I'm going to make sure that they're doing the right thing, you know. But when you're talking to somebody through email or when you're talking to somebody through messages, you kind of can't really get them on the right track. You're not getting them on the right path. So you got to push them a little bit. Yeah, I think somebody gave asked me that because I said I was gonna make only the really expensive tier one, right? But then people were like, "Oh, I want an alternative. I want something in the middle, right? Because I really want that extra stuff, but I probably can't afford the big one." So I'm set up 2 tiers now instead to help people who don't want to do a ridiculous amount, right? And then the people who basically want to take up all my time because it's a limited amount of people that can have that maximum tier, right? I'm not gonna have more than 5 people on that maximum tier because it literally takes hours of work every single month per person, right? But the second tier is more phone consultations, and that right there is going to be much more manageable. You still have to schedule your calls with me on the weekends, right? But it's really going to keep you on pace. It's going to keep you motivated, and you're literally going to be able to ask me questions in real time instead of, doing it the other way. So. Hey, Dreadrock, are you in our Discord channel? If you're not in our Discord channel, here is the Discord link. Let me see. Let's see. Invite people. Boom. Bam. There's a Discord link right here. That's to join our Discord server. All our links are over there. If you want to join Patreon, here is the Patreon link. He said also, just let you know, because it's Black History Month, we have special prices on our store for any of our books and any of our stuff, right? It's been slashed significantly for this month only, all right? So check that out. You might enjoy it, especially if you have kids, all right? So that's it. This weekend is closed. I'm done. Now I got to look at your homework starting on Sunday. I'll start replying to some of the emails for homework. All right. See y'all later. Have a great weekend. Week 3 is coming up, and guess what? Next week, that's the grind. That's when you start writing your story. Good luck, man. You're gonna need it.